this web of life we live. I will give you everything you give to everyone, and all we give to one another, so that all of us might live. The circle ends where it begins and starts again just where it ends. No seam, no separation, and no finish line to pass. There is no need for hurry and no use for fear and worry, for our lives roll on forever, but only this one moment lasts. I am in the center of the center you are in, with everything you know and everything you try to understand. I will love you always and forever, as you love the one who's everything and nothing you once dreamed of, hand in hand. The circle ends where it begins and starts again just where it ends. No seam, no separation, and no finish line to pass. There is no need for hurry and no use for fear and worry, for our lives roll on forever, but only this one moment lasts. I will stand with you when you stand up for everything that you believe is true, and everything you try to help me see. For I am part of you, are part of me, and part of everything that never will be changed, as well as changed in you and me. The circle ends where it begins and starts again just where it ends. No seam, no separation, and no finish line to pass. There is no need for hurry and no use for fear and worry, for our lives roll on forever, but only this one moment lasts. Our lives roll on forever, but only this one moment let us gather at this river. Let us gather one by one. Let us gather at this river. Let us gather one by one. Oh, let us gather at this river. Let us gather one by one. Let us gather at this river. Let us gather one by one.
we are not stuck at home. We're safe at home. And we made the decisions to do it this way in order to keep ourselves and everyone we love safe, as well as the people we don't know, the people out in the community, the people that are keeping our economy going, that are keeping us rolling right now, that are the ones that are too often overlooked, that are the ones that we need to be championing now, because they are keeping everything happening. I can't complain about being at home because I'm privileged to be able to work from home. Not everybody can. Not everybody. And not everybody who is at home is working from home. Some people I know that have tuned in this morning, watching from wherever they are here this morning because their part of the economy has started to unravel for them, and they've been laid off. Our hearts go out to you, and we are keeping you in mind as we champion the systems that need to be replaced as we move forward. So listen, this is the week that we set our sights on preparing our hearts and minds for the Passover season, which is coming in just a few days. On Wednesday the 8th, Passover will begin. This year, we're not able to gather and have our traditional foods and have a meal together and do the telling and remember again the wisdom of this time all in the same room. But you know, as I was contemplating that, I wondered what the lessons are now. And I was thinking about the story of the Exodus. Y'all remember how that story goes. You know what? I'm going to back up just a second. I'm going to take a breath. Take one with me. There's a poem that was put out this week by one of my colleagues named Chip Roush. Many of you know him because he's also a Susiite, and those of us who love Susi are sad this week that Susi got canceled in order to keep everyone safe. It's the right decision, but it hurts like so many other things right now. And so in the wake of that, Chip wrote this poem, and I think it's important right now, especially since one of the things we just had to do is switch off our screens in order to try to get bandwidth so that we could communicate the things that we have prepared for you today. And that just seems like a metaphor for me that calls for this poem right now. For those struggling to live under the restrictions due to the COVID-19 pandemic, we see you. For those who are frankly enjoying their time apart, appreciating solitude, relishing the opportunity to read, to tidy up, to finish those long-running side projects, for those blissfully engaged in the soil of their garden, we see you. For those who miss their loved ones, we see you. For those who are enjoying more time with some of their loved ones, we see you. For those who crave just a little time away from some of their loved ones, we see you. For those who are bored stiff, we see you. For those who are taking many more walks than usual, we see you. For those who are discovering a deeper self now that there is less busyness and distraction, we see you. For those already accustomed to quarantine, to isolation, to extensive medical precautions because of the pre-existing conditions, we see you. For those who cannot visit their sick loved ones, who cannot celebrate a religious holiday in the way they usually do, who have postponed a wedding, a graduation, a birthday party, a memorial service, we see you. For those who are working even harder, even longer hours, we see you and we thank you. For medical personnel, for all the grocery staff, maintenance workers, postal carriers, drive-through food deliverers, bank tellers, trash collectors, and so many others, we see you. For those who are wondering how they will sustain their small business, we see you. For those attempting to feed, comfort, wrangle, and perhaps even educate children, we see you. For those already shunned or microaggressed because they appear to have Asian ancestry, we see you. For those saddened or enraged at how, again, Black and brown communities are disproportionately harmed through human inaction and deliberate mishandling of this crisis, we see you. For those attempting to profit from this situation, those seeking to consolidate their own power, we see you too. For those who have never had more than a few days worth of food in the house, whose pantry shelves are getting emptier and emptier, we see you. For those who are now quarantined in small space with their abuser, we see you. For those imprisoned or detained, or for all those who love them, we see you. For those who have already thought they knew somebody with the virus and that near miss was frightening enough, and for those who do know someone with the virus, we see you. For those who have been diagnosed with the virus, we see you and we send our support. For those who've already lost a loved one to this pandemic and its mismanagement, we see you and we grieve with you. For those who just want a hug from somebody, we see you and we send you a regrettably unsatisfying virtual hug with the promise for a real one someday. For those of us who are part of the interconnected web of all existence, may we draw strength from those connections. May we furnish resilience to the connections all around us, and may we truly feel the spirit of life evolving through us and among us. So may we be. The words of the Reverend Chip Roush. We would be lighting our chalice now. So I invite you to imagine the chalice within you. Now, we love our symbols, we love our items, we love our things. I love this stained glass chalice that is lit behind me, but the flame we carry is within us. That chalice on the outside that we light is only symbolic of that light, that fire, that warmth that we carry inside of us. We would light this sacred flame today that by its light we may see the path of liberation before us and dare to take it as one people living the way of love unfolding through us. Unfolding through us. In our covenanted community where we promise not to have all the answers, not to always get it right, but to keep moving together through this journey of life that we share. This morning, as I was contemplating what it meant to think about the Passover in the situation we're in right now, I thought about the cost of liberation. I thought about these words from Desmond Tutu. Liberation is costly. Even after the Lord had delivered the Israelites from Egypt, they had to travel through the desert. They had to bear the responsibilities and difficulties of freedom. Many of them preferred the days of bondage and flesh pots of Egypt. We must remember that liberation is costly. It needs unity. We must refuse to be divided. We must be ready. Some of us will not see the day of our liberation physically, that those people will have contributed to the struggle. Let us be united. Let us be filled with hope. So back to the Passover story. The book of Exodus presents us with the wicked Pharaoh who feared the Israelites' increasing power and orders them to slavery. And then, as their numbers increased, fearing them all the more, commanded that Hebrew baby boys should be thrown into the Nile River. But a baby we know as Moses was saved when his mother, Jochebed, hid him in the baskets among the reeds. For Pharaoh's own daughter found him and raised him as her own with the help of Moses' own mother and sister Miriam, though Pharaoh's daughter never knew they were Moses' family. Then Moses grew up, and he grew up in absolute privilege. But still he had a tender heart, and his heart was broken by the suffering he saw of the Jewish people. And finally, one day, out in the desert, God spoke to Moses through a burning bush. He told Moses to go tell Pharaoh, let my people go, which we know Pharaoh did not do, not even after plagues of blood and frogs and lice and wild animals and sick animals and boils and hail and locusts and darkness, and each new plague was worse than the last one, until the last and worst of all, the death of the firstborn. And then Pharaoh said, enough already, and told Moses to go and take all the Jews with him. And Moses said to the Israelites, grab only what you can carry and prepare to leave at once. Don't even wait for your bread to rise, just go. That's why we partake of unleavened bread in the time of the Passover. And so the Jews left Egypt with just what they could carry in the sacks on their back and the faith in their heart. And then they reached the Red Sea with Pharaoh's army bearing down behind, because by now he'd changed his mind, because after all, he was losing all of his free labor. We still know that story, don't we? And so there they were, trapped between the Red Sea and the army pursuing behind, until Moses stepped with faith into the water, and the waters parted, and the Jews crossed on dry land, finally liberated, except from themselves and their human nature and their own history and their own habits. And here, the teaching of the scriptures is how hard it is to liberate ourselves. Because no matter how much we think we want to be free, the truth is we're really not all that willing to actually be free. Because freedom comes with responsibility for ourselves and for our lives, and for those around us as well. And while we think we want that, in too many ways, we just don't. And neither did the Israelites, it turns out. Because even after the mighty liberation they experienced, the waters parting and all that, they soon found themselves struggling in the desert and wondering if maybe freedom was just too hard, and maybe slavery wasn't so bad after all, and maybe they could just go back, because at least they knew how to do that. Not this new thing where everything was different. So you say, so what, the Jews actually thought their old lives of slavery might be better than the responsibilities of freedom? I mean, we would never do such a thing, but we do. We do such a thing all the time. We rail against oppression, but at the same time, we let the systems of that oppression just roll on. We rage against bigotry. We march for Black Lives Matter. We're furious right now that our siblings of Asian ancestry are suffering xenophobia and violence in the midst of this pandemic. But the systems of privilege that provoke such atrocities are the systems we have let stand for a very long time. For however much we resist and protest, we have never truly dared to tear those systems down, because we ourselves are enslaved to those systems. And liberation is costly. Until something cataclysmic, some plague or other, causes those systems to begin to collapse under the weight of their own greed and lust for power. Oh, wait. We are in the midst of a cataclysmic plague of our own. We are seeing our systems and institutions built for and by privilege beginning to collapse, exposing how deeply broken our society is. And as the frills of comfortable existence begin to burn away in the heat of this moment, we see so clearly how these systems we inherited are indeed quite deliberately designed to sustain injustice and inhumanity. And we see how we have continued to benefit by them as willing co-conspirators, even while we protested them. So now here we are. The carefully woven fabric of our reality is torn apart. It hurts. It hurts bad. And we want desperately to close that hole and just get back to normal. But my beloveds, we can't. We can't go back. We must not go back. And yes, we have to grieve that, because all change is grief. And we don't even know what we might be trying to go back to anyway. You don't know what normal might or might not be when this is done. But at the same time, that hole torn in our reality has exposed how very broken our society is. Through that very same hole, we can see the possibilities of building something new. Something more like the world we dreamed of in its place, that we couldn't get to because these systems enslaved us. If nothing else, just to their convenience, going about our daily lives. Maybe through this hole, we can see a better future for our children and our grandchildren and our great-grandchildren to the 7th generation, just like the ancestors have been trying to teach us for so very long. What if being locked down in our houses right now is actually the cost of our liberation? What if we are, in fact, learning just how great that cost is? But it's a price we're willing to pay to save our lives and our loved ones' lives and our neighbors' lives, and indeed, the lives of all those we're connected to in the interdependent web of all being in this world. What if, like the Israelites fleeing the bitter bonds of slavery, we now have to learn to take up only what we can carry? What if, with annihilation behind us and extinction ahead of us, this is our chance to build a better future and live to tell the story so that humanity should never forget the price paid for this liberation from these systems of oppression we are so accustomed to. Pack nothing. The telling by Ala-Reni the Bozarth goes, pack nothing. Bring only your determination to serve and your willingness to be free. Do not hesitate to leave your old ways behind. Fear, silence, submission. Only surrender to the need of the time to love justice and walk humbly with your God. Begin quickly, before you have time to sink back into your old slavery. Set out in the dark, and I will send fire to warm and encourage you. I will give you dreams in the desert to guide you safely home to that place you have not yet seen. I am sending you into the wilderness to make a new way and to learn my ways more deeply. Some of you will be so changed by weathers and wanderings that even your closest friends will have to learn your features as though for the first time. Some of you will not change at all. Some will be abandoned by your dearest loves and misunderstood by those who have known you since birth and feel abandoned by you. Some will find new friendships in unlikely places, old friends as faithful and true as the pillars of God's flames. Sing songs as you go and hold close together. You may at times grow confused and lose your way. Keep telling the stories. Make maps as you go. I'm with you. I'm waiting for you. Remain true to this mystery. Pass on the whole story. Do not go back. And everyone neath the vine and fig tree shall live in peace and unafraid. And everyone neath the vine and fig tree shall live in peace and unafraid. And into plowshares beat their swords, nations will make war no more. And into plowshares beat their swords, nations shall make war no more. Here ends our lesson today. No, no. Here begins our lesson today. For if nothing else, this thing we're in has shown us that we have so much yet to learn, and that the things that we thought were so were not all so. And now we're finding out the things that matter and the things that don't. Zena, I'd like to open up the chat right now so that we can share our concerns, our joys, our thoughts together and lift them up in this time that we have.
So the chat is open, Rev Amy. Do you want me to enable their mics too, or just the chat?
Let's just look at the chat for this moment. Okay. Let's see. The candle for Lucy Hardy's. Happy birthday. Happy birthday, Lucy. Oh, yes. See, we had Emma. I hope we can get to see you lighting the chalice. We have it all on film. So it doesn't disappear. We just couldn't present it this week. So we still have that, and we can present that. The poem, Susan Moss, the poem was Chip Roush. It's R-O-U-S-H. There we go. Karen's got it. Let's see. Well, we've got, listen, Lucy, you know how many people are saying happy birthday to you in the chat? I think we should sing. I'm going to sing here. You sing at home. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Lucy. Everybody, big harmonies. Happy birthday to you. So I hope you'll think about this. I've been thinking about it a lot. What it is I may be being liberated from in this process. And liberation is costly. It's not without sacrifice. It is not without some pain. Because even when we know it's the right thing, it still hurts. Just like those of us who love Susie lost the ability to gather with our loved ones in the mountains in North Carolina this week. It's the right decision. It liberates us from the worries of how we might actually make one another sick. Still hurts. It still hurts. And just because we're seeing the possibilities and what could be on the other side of this, even though we don't know when that will be, and that's part of the pain and frustration, is we don't know when that will be. At the same time, we're looking at those possibilities, we honor the grieving that happens now for the things that have changed, things that cannot go back to the way they used to be, for the people that we love, some of whom are sick. We all know someone who has the virus now. It's everywhere. And we also know that we have the opportunity to keep moving forward together and making a new way, making maps as we go, singing, holding fast to what is true. I say it's time to grab our coffee and talk with one another. Is everybody ready to say amen? And let's go talk. Yes? Those of you I can see, thumbs up, amen? Or in the chat. Gratitude for Zoom and seeing everyone this morning. Thank you, Scott. We're grateful too. Rebecca, thank you for making a valiant try to get this to work. Zena, thank you for wrangling it in real time. Here we go. Let's talk.